Welcome to Muffin Talk.
Kia ora and welcome to Muffin Talk. This program is brought to you by the initiative Titipounamu, Study and Joy. My guest today is Father Markus Solo Kewuta. Welcome and haere mai, Father Markus.
Thank you. Selamat malam. Buonasera from the Vatican, from Rome.
Thank you for joining us, Father Markus. Father Markus Solo Kewuta is a priest of the Society of the Divine Word and is originally from Indonesia. That was his greeting in Indonesian. And he studied philosophy, worked in Austria for many years, and is today based in the Vatican, where he works for the Dicastery of Interreligious Dialogue. It is now exactly 60 years since Pope Paul VI issued the Vatican II document Nostra Aetate, the start of the Dicastery of Interreligious Dialogue. In Nostra Aetate it says, "We cannot truly call on God, the Father of all, if we refuse to treat in a brotherly way any man created as he is in the image of God. Man's relation to God, the Father, and his relation to men, his brothers, are so linked together that Scripture says, 'He who does not love does not know God.'" Father Markus, this is an introduction to the Dicastery of Interreligious Dialogue. Can you tell us more about what this dicastery is about and what is your work there?
Well, it is correct what you said before, that the Catholic Church is very much blessed with the document of Nostra Aetate. Next year, on 28 October, we will celebrate the 60th year anniversary of this document. Also, you have well said that I'm working here at the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue in the Vatican City. This office is part of so-called Roman Curia. This office, the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue, is the central office of the Catholic Church mission to promote peace and harmony, and it is based here in the Vatican, and therefore we work usually structurally with local churches. How it began on the Pentecost Sunday, 1964, it was during the Second Vatican Council. Pope Paul VI established a secretariat for the relations with non-Christians. Secretariat for non-Christians. It was a very small secretariat. It was established in 1964, as I said, by Pope Paul VI. And then after that, 1 year later, as I said before, in October 1965, this document Nostra Aetate came out. So the publication of the document Nostra Aetate confirmed again the importance of this small office for relations with non-Christians. And after that, during the years, well, starting with Pope Paul VI, and then after that, John Paul II, and Pope Benedict, and then now Pope Francis, all these modern popes, they always underlined and emphasized the importance of interreligious dialogue. And Pope John Paul II, for example, he converted the Secretariat for Non-Christians, which in the course of time became more important. He converted it, the Apostolic Constitution Pastor Bonus, to a pontifical council. So from the Secretariat for Non-Christians, it became the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. And recently, in June 2022, Pope Francis converted the Pontifical Council of Interreligious Dialogue into the Dicastery. And our official name is now the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue.
I mean, what does it mean, pontifical and then dicastery? What's the difference?
The difference is that the Pontifical Council had its role as advising organization for Pope with the emphasis on the internal work. It is still also our work to bring out the messages of Pope to the local church and to the world. But we had to be here in order to collaborate with the Holy Father. That is the essence of the Pontifical Council. But the dicastery, it was also brought out or changed based on the Apostolic Constitution Predicate Evangelium of Pope Francis, who emphasized the missionary dimension of the Catholic Church, more going out to the periphery of the church. And therefore, the dicastery has now a missionary understanding, um, having the task and responsibility or the mission to bring the messages of Jesus Christ, including a message of peace and harmony to the periphery of the world or outside of Rome.
It's really interesting, and I'd like to know, can you give us some practical examples of what you're doing? Something, so you say mission and you say harmony. How do you do it? Can you tell us a little bit about your work more?
Our how to say former president of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, Cardinal Jean-Louis Tourin, who passed away, he always said in many meetings that took place in our office here, he said, "Dear brothers and sisters, the real dialogue doesn't take place in our office. The real dialogue takes place in the local churches, in the places where people of different religions, they live together." So, here is a different condition, different reality here in the Vatican or in Rome. This office is actually, as I said before, it is just an office. We have here different departments in this office. Well, we have structurally prefect, and then secretary, and then undersecretary, and then different departments. My department is dialogue with Islam in Asia and Pacific region, including New Zealand, surely. And unfortunately, I have not been in New Zealand, and let us continue to dream that one day we can meet in New Zealand. We have also here the department for, let us say, Islam takes the biggest part of dialogue activities here in our office. As you see, Islam is majority. It is a challenge, a real challenge in our dialogue. And due to its diversity, geographically, but also the teachings, groups, and sects. And therefore, we are poor people looking after the relations with Muslims here in the office. I myself, I look after the dialogue with Muslims in Asian Pacific. Another colleague is looking after dialogue with Muslims in the Middle East and Northern Africa and United States and Central Asia due to cultural reasons. And another one is looking after relations with Muslims in Europe. And another one is looking after relations with Muslims in sub-Sahara of Africa. And other departments like relations with Hindus, Jains, and Sikhs. It's one person. And another person is looking after relations with Buddhists, Shinto, Confucianists. And another one is looking after relations with new religious movements in the mainstream religions.
That's a big office. You have lots of different people in a different roles. Tell me, you are from Indonesia, and Indonesia is, I think, 87% Muslim, 10% Christian. Is that about right?
You are right. Around 87% of the total population of 284 million people are Muslims. Yes.
So tell me, how does the interreligious dialogue work in Indonesia? Quite a significant number of Muslims, and then you have all these many islands. How do
Mhm.
you work in interreligious dialogue in Indonesia?
Well, interreligious dialogue in this country with the biggest Muslim population in the world, uh, well, the dialogue is working actually very well.
Hmm.
There are a lot of initiatives from the religious leaders down to the grassroots level. I know that these interreligious dialogue activities and initiatives are mostly among the people of goodwill and the moderate ones. If we put that on the side of Muslims, then we say that it is actually mostly among the moderate Muslims, yeah, and liberal Muslims. Because I usually categorize Islam in Indonesia or Muslims in Indonesia in three groups. The moderate ones, that is the biggest group of Muslims in my country, Indonesia. And then the second one is very small one, that is the liberal Muslims. Then the second biggest, they are actually radical Muslims, radical conservative Muslims. Three groups, they exist in Indonesia. And fortunately, the majority of Muslims, they are the moderate ones, and the liberal ones, they are very, very willing and very, very open for intelligence dialogue. And living in a plural society like Indonesia, where the plurality is actually the original DNA of the country. That means I want to say that the plurality is not imported from outside, not brought in into the country from outside, but it is actually uh, part of Indonesian identity, the plurality. And therefore, there is no way except living in dialogue for peace and harmony. And that is actually also the DNA of our country. And I'm really very happy following all the dialogue initiatives and activities taking place in my country. And they are really many and plenty. I also note that the more we are challenged by the radical conservative ones, the more we go on the street and we go on the stage to declare our goodwill to fight against the violence, discrimination, and the terrorism and etc.
Father Markus, you were recently together with Pope Francis in Indonesia, and you were accompanying him and you were interpreting for him. How was that, and how much did you have the chance to talk to Pope Francis about interreligious dialogue?
Well, I had an unforgettable experience in my life being chosen by Pope himself, Pope Francis, to accompany him and to be his interpreter in Indonesia. Well, there are a lot of things to tell about this, but the most important thing I wanted to say that it was a blessing to go to my country with Pope Francis, and I was able to present to him to tell him about my country. He was very happy. But just to say that he was well prepared before going to Indonesia. He was well informed about Indonesia with all its beauty and all its challenges. The Holy Father was well informed, and therefore he also found the way how to express all his wishes and also what he wanted to say to Indonesia in all the text I translated from Italian language into Indonesia, and all things, all his words were very much appreciated by the whole nation. The Indonesians, they were very grateful because they really wanted to listen to Pope, and they got that what they wanted. It was really a very successful and joyful visit of Pope Indonesia. And then Besides that he was well informed about my country before he went to Indonesia, we also had chances to chat and to speak to each other because being the interpreter of the Holy Father, I was always beside him. Everywhere he went, I was always present. The most beautiful moments were at the table, sitting side by side at the Apostolic Nunciature in Jakarta. We talked also to each other about the reality in Indonesia. Well, in some way, he also said that this is the global phenomenon in every society where there are moderates, there are also radical conservative ones, there are also radical ones. But he encouraged the whole nation to maintain the plurality, to respect the plurality, and to cultivate the plurality because the plurality is the source of richness based on our motto in Indonesia is Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, that means unity in the diversity. And Pope Francis repeated this in Indonesian language more than once, I think 2 or 3 times in his speeches. And uh, that was very good.
We also say
And
that in New Zealand, the unity in diversity, we talk about that
yeah,
too, because we are a
yeah,
very diverse country,
mhm, mhm,
especially Auckland, with about 30% of the population being born overseas. We have people
yeah.
of all walks of life and walk of faith. And what, with your experience now in Indonesia and with Pope Francis, is there something that you would like to tell the Catholics or the people here in New Zealand regarding interreligious dialogue and maybe motivate them to get
Mhm.
involved?
Yeah, surely. You know, Intelligence Dialogue was also at the center of the visit of the Holy Father to Indonesia. And he was able to meet the Grand Imam of Jakarta, of the Grand Mosque Istiqlal in Jakarta. And Pope was able also, he was invited by the Muslims, even by the Muslims, to inaugurate according to the Catholic faith and rites, the tunnel that connects the Cathedral of Jakarta, Catholic Cathedral, and the biggest mosque of Muslims, Istiqlal, that are also not far from each other. And they both, the Grand Imam of Istiqlal in Jakarta and Pope Francis, they formed a document, they signed a common joint declaration called Declaration of Istiqlal 2024, with two main points actually. Uh, they declare their willingness and readiness to collaborate to combat the dehumanization characterized in various aspects and dimensions and types. And the second important point is to fight against the environmental crisis. And for your context in New Zealand, where you said it is a huge reality, and I'm really grateful that intelligence dialogue is really going on with many activities and initiatives from the top religious leaders down to the grassroots level. It is very important because sometimes people enjoy also only good friendship, good brotherhood at the top level, and then they forget the grassroots level. That's what we always said also when we visited the local churches. Don't forget the grassroots level. The biggest challenges, they come always from the grassroots level. And well, for Auckland or for New Zealand, I just wanted to say, as Pope said also in our context in Indonesia, don't fear the plurality. The plurality is the source of mutual enrichment. Surely, if people feel the responsibility, openness to contribute for the bonum commune or for the good of all, the whole society, then it will work very well. For this goal, I think it is important to promote intelligence dialogue in all levels. It's dialogue of life, dialogue of collaboration, dialogue of spirituality, dialogue of theological reflections. All these types of dialogue must be promoted, must be made known to people and to be promoted always. Don't fear the differences.
A couple of weeks ago, I organized an event called Weaving Empathy, and I had an
I see.
indigenous speaker who said weaving is really important, that you have to take when you prepare the flax, that you
Yes.
get down to the part that you can really work with. But then when
Mm.
you have different strands to weave together, that makes the rope a lot stronger. So
Mm.
that's another part of the diversity, because together you're stronger.
Going back to the document Nostra Aetate,
Yeah.
imagine around 60 years ago, the council's fathers, they were already aware about the huge plurality we are facing and we will face in the future. So you can say that Nostra Aetate document is a prophetic document.
Mm.
60 years ago, the first sentence of the document says that we will face a huge plurality. The world has been plurality and it will become more plural than ever. And it is true, the world we are facing is very plural and it will become more plural in the future. And therefore, we all, as Catholics and people of all religions, we have a common responsibility to promote unity and peace. And therefore, we always say interreligious dialogue is not an option, but it is a necessity.
Mhm. And we are one human family.
Yes, and you know that many things have taken place during the past years after the Second Vatican Council. One of the let us say that is contemporary activity or initiative taken by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Dr. Ahmad Tayyip. You are very much aware about that. The signing of the common declaration, common document, human fraternity
Yeah.
in Abu Dhabi on 4th February 2019, sorry, 2019, a few years ago. It has been a very important document, and this must be read and must be discussed among us with people of other religions in order to find the deeper meaning of this document and to also to apply the values of this document in our daily life. And one thing I remember what Pope said in Indonesia when he met people of other religions, he said, well, the plurality is a reality of our life, but we don't stop at looking at the plurality. We have to go deeper. We have to go deeper in order
Mm.
to find commonalities among us. And the basis of commonalities, before talking about religions, the basis of commonalities are human values, humanity that unites us. And we start dialogue not from zero. We always start from our human communal experiences. And this should lead us to more peace, more harmony.
Thank you so much, Father Markus. Thank you for this inspiration and for sharing some of your experience with Pope Francis. I think that we have to connect again and learn more about how we can cooperate across the
Yeah,
world, all the
yeah.
different countries that are that have groups that are involved in interreligious dialogue and in ecumenism and in bringing people together. So thank you for your work, and thank you for the interview.
Thank you very much, Miss Beate. It was also actually my desire to have a webinar with you and your colleagues who are working in this area of intelligence dialogue in New Zealand. Maybe we can organize a webinar one day.
Yes, certainly. I'm sure we can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Many greetings to New Zealand.
Thank you, and greetings to Rome.
Thank you.
Out there, heroic peace is calling. In the bonds of love we meet. For the world, a new day dawning and shine.